Imagine starting the new year with hope and celebration, only to be met with the shocking news of an assassination attempt on a nation's leader. This is precisely what unfolded on January 1st, 2025, when word spread that Ibrahim Traore, the 35-year-old president of Burkina Faso, had narrowly escaped an attack on his life. The world watched in disbelief as it became clear that Burkina Faso's future was hanging by a thread, turning into a dangerous struggle for survival. This wasn't just another coup attempt. It was a fierce and violent response to a leader who dared challenge the global powers that had long held sway over the region. Traore had openly defied Western influence, promoting a bold vision of African independence that sent ripples through the international community, unsettling those who benefited from maintaining the status quo. But why target Traore? Who would gain from plunging Burkina Faso into chaos? To get a clearer picture, we must first understand who Ibrahim Traore is and what he stands for. His journey to the presidency of Burkina Faso in 2022 was nothing short of extraordinary. In a nation grappling with severe poverty, insurgencies, and political instability, Traore rose as a military captain, with a genuine passion for change. Unlike many leaders whose paths are paved by wealth or powerful connections, Traore's rise was fueled by his deep empathy for the struggles of his people. At just 35 years old, he became one of the youngest leaders on the African continent, capturing the hearts of a population weary of corruption and foreign control. His message of self-reliance and national sovereignty struck a chord with the people, offering a beacon of hope in dark times. Burkina Faso's recent history had been marred by violence and distrust, with many citizens feeling that their government was little more than a puppet of foreign powers, especially France, which had maintained a significant presence since the colonial era. Traore's defiance of this legacy made him a symbol of resistance and a target for those who wished to maintain the old order. When Ibrahim Traore rose to power, he carried a message that resonated deeply. Burkina Faso needed to carve out its destiny, free from the lingering shadows of colonial rule. His mission was bold but straightforward: take back control of the nation's resources, reclaim its sovereignty, and dismantle the grip of foreign powers, especially France, which had long reaped the benefits of Burkina Faso's rich gold mines and other natural assets. Traore's ascent wasn't just a political shift, it was a statement of national pride and identity. For many, he became a beacon of defiance against a global system that had kept many African nations under foreign domination for far too long. But such a leader inevitably stirs strong reactions. Why does Traore provoke such intense emotions, both in support and opposition? Traore's moves have shaken the very foundations of France's influence in Africa. By opposing French business interests, pushing out French military forces, and promoting native languages over French in official settings, he has positioned himself as a thorn in the side of Western powers. Yet to the people of Burkina Faso, Traore symbolises hope, a leader who offers a vision of a nation standing tall on its own. Could this bold vision be why Traore faced a coup attempt? Or is there a more complex web of conspiracies involving both international and domestic players? To truly grasp why Traore has become such a contentious figure, we must examine the possible forces behind the attack. At first glance, it seems logical to point fingers at the internal opposition within Burkina Faso. Traore's rise, though popular among many citizens, hasn't been welcomed by all, especially within certain military factions. These groups view his anti-colonial stance as a threat to the entrenched power structures and might be looking to reinstate the old order. However, the domestic opposition only scratches the surface. Traore's most vehement opponents are abroad. France, the former colonial ruler, still wields significant influence across West Africa and stands to lose a great deal if Traore's vision of an independent Burkina Faso succeeds. For decades, French corporations have dominated the country's gold industry, profiting massively while the local population remained in poverty. Traore's actions to nationalise the mining sector, expel French troops, and curb French influence have been seen as bold defiance, directly challenging the economic interests that underpin French power in the region. If you are still watching this video, it means you love it. Why not take out a second and hit that like button? Have you done that? Let's move on. Beyond France, other global powers have their eyes on Burkina Faso, each with its own stake in the country's future. For decades, the United States and other Western nations have viewed Africa as a key area for their economic and strategic interests. Any shift towards self-reliance among African nations is seen as a threat to their control. The recent attempt on Ibrahim Traore's life is not just about removing a leader, it's a stark warning to anyone who dares to challenge the established global order. Can Burkina Faso withstand this attack, or is it on the brink of a deeper crisis? The aftermath has plunged the nation into turmoil. Already battered by insurgencies and political unrest, the people now face the grim reality that the leader they look to for hope might not survive. The government has quickly launched an investigation, but many questions remain. Who orchestrated this attack? Could it be the start of a broader scheme to topple Traore and return the country to the grip of foreign powers? In the streets of Ouagadougou, panic is growing. Supporters of Traore are rallying in his defence, but there's a palpable fear that this is just the beginning of a violent and destabilising period. One of the biggest fears is the possibility of a military coup. With Traore's leadership now under threat, some factions in the military might see this as their chance to seize power. Burkina Faso has a history of coups, and many worry that this attack could trigger yet another one, plunging the country into further chaos. The tension isn't confined to Burkina Faso. The world is watching, with international implications hanging in the balance. If a coup succeeds, it would undermine not only the dream of an independent Burkina Faso, but also deal a significant blow to the Pan-African movement that Traore symbolises. His leadership has been a beacon for many African nations, striving for self-reliance, and his fall could discourage others from pursuing a similar path. So does this attack signal the collapse of Traore's vision for a sovereign, self-reliant Africa? For many, his leadership transcends Burkina Faso's borders. It challenges the long-standing neocolonial systems that have kept much of Africa under foreign influence. Traore's rise has inspired solidarity across the continent, with many nations looking to his example as a model of resistance against Western domination. If Traore is taken out of the equation, what happens to this growing wave of African independence? Will other nations be forced back into reliance on Western powers? Or will they push forward, continuing the fight for true sovereignty? For Traore, the stakes go beyond his own survival. He aims to leave behind a legacy of unity, independence, and pride not just for Burkina Faso, but for all of Africa. This assassination attempt has underscored that his battle isn't just a domestic one, it's a confrontation with powerful global forces, determined to maintain the status quo. Traore's outright rejection of French control, his focus on homegrown development, and his drive to create a self-reliant economy have turned him into a target not only for opposition within Burkina Faso, but also for Western nations that have long depended on Africa's wealth to sustain their economies. This attempted coup is a harsh reminder of the price that comes with striving for independence in today's interconnected world. But let's pause and consider, what if Traore is ousted? What legacy would he leave behind that would resonate across Africa? To answer this, imagine a city not built with foreign aid, or as a showpiece for international investors, but as a monument to the fight for autonomy. This is the dream that Traore has brought to life through his visionary project, the Renaissance City. Far from just another urban development, the Renaissance City is a bold statement about Burkina Faso's future. It directly challenges the long history of foreign exploitation. For years, African nations have been told that their progress depends on Western involvement. Colonial powers have dominated African economies, perpetuating the belief that without foreign capital and expertise, Africa cannot thrive. Traore's Renaissance City flips this narrative on its head. It's not just about infrastructure, it's a symbol of Burkina Faso's determination to succeed on its terms. The city is being built using local resources, with a strong emphasis on innovation and sustainability. Traore has been clear, this project will not rely on Western funding or companies. Instead, it's meant to showcase that African countries can achieve greatness independently. This project signifies a seismic shift in how development in Africa is perceived. No longer will Africa's growth be judged by how well it aligns with Western goals. Traore is showing that Africa's future lies in its creativity and resilience. The Renaissance city embodies the idea that African cities can and will be shaped by Africans, for Africans. The impact of Traore's vision reaches beyond Burkina Faso's borders. Across the continent, countries that have long depended on Western aid, investment, and military support are beginning to rethink their reliance on these external forces. Traore's bold stance has sparked a wave of resistance, and the world is closely observing how far this movement can spread. Nations like Mali, Niger, and others in West Africa are taking note as Burkina Faso moves to reclaim its resources and expel French military presence. In a region where French influence has loomed large for decades, Traore's leadership sends a powerful message. Africa doesn't need to ask for a place at the table. It's time to demand the respect and independence that should have been granted long ago. This movement, however, comes with significant risks. Western powers, led by France, have already started pushing back through various means: economic sanctions, diplomatic isolation, and covert actions aimed at disrupting Burkina Faso's progress. The recent attempt on Ibrahim Traore's life is just one example of how far these forces are willing to go to maintain their grip on Africa. Despite these dangers, Traore remains steadfast. He knows that his survival isn't just about his leadership, it's about securing the future of Burkina Faso and fueling the broader push for African independence. Each threat and assassination attempt only hardens his determination to continue with his ambitious vision. Under Traore's leadership, Burkina Faso's fight isn't just for its sovereignty. It's part of a larger struggle for African nations to assert their independence and shape their futures. Traore stands as a beacon of hope, demonstrating that Africa can chart its path without the need for Western interference. His unwavering stance inspires other nations to believe that their journey toward autonomy is possible. A core element of Traore's leadership is his dedication to Pan-Africanism, a movement advocating for the unity and solidarity of African nations. For Traore, Pan-Africanism isn't merely a political stance, it's the bedrock of his strategy for Africa's future. Historically, Africa has been divided by colonial borders, with each nation fighting its battles in isolation. But Traore envisions a united Africa, one free from Western dominance, capable of forging its destiny. This idea of a cohesive Africa is resonating across the continent. Nations like Mali, Guinea, and Niger, which have also experienced political upheaval, are beginning to see Burkina Faso as a model of what could be achieved if African countries band together in their pursuit of independence. Traore's leadership has become a rallying cry for those who believe that Africa's fate should lie in the hands of its people, not in those of former colonial rulers. Yet the question lingers: can Ibrahim Traore withstand the mounting threats against him, or will he become another martyr in the ongoing battle for African sovereignty? His unyielding dedication to his vision has made him a marked man. The repeated attempts on his life are a chilling reminder of the constant danger he faces. These aren't random acts, they are calculated moves by his adversaries to silence him and derail Burkina Faso's quest for independence. That Traore has survived 18 assassination attempts speaks volumes about his enemy's determination, but also highlights his resilience and resolve. Each failed attempt only reinforces his commitment to his cause. Traore isn't merely fighting for his survival, he's battling for Burkina Faso, for Africa, and for the dream of a continent freed from the exploitation and control of Western powers. In a world where leaders often yield to external pressures, Ibrahim Traore stands as a defiant symbol of hope for countless Africans longing for liberation from centuries of subjugation. His refusal to bow has made him a beacon of resistance, but it comes with a heavy price. The growing threats against him, both from foreign powers and domestic forces, underscore the high stakes of his defiance. Yet Traore is resolute, fully aware of the risks, but determined to pay the ultimate price if necessary. For him, the fight for Burkina Faso's sovereignty transcends personal survival. It's about the broader struggle for African independence. This isn't merely an attack on Traore as an individual. The assassination attempt reveals deeper stakes. This is a battle for the survival of a movement seeking to dismantle a system that has long kept African nations reliant on the West. For decades, Africa has been exploited, its resources siphoned off to fuel foreign economies. Trade deals have often skewed in favour of Western corporations, and military interventions have ensured continued control. Traore's leadership challenges this status quo. His vision for an independent Burkina Faso, free from the shadows of colonial influence, embodies a larger wave of change sweeping across the continent. Countries like Mali, Niger and Guinea are already following Burkina Faso's lead, expelling foreign troops and rethinking their ties with Western powers. The question now isn't whether African countries can reclaim their independence. It's about how far this movement can go and how fiercely it will be opposed by those benefiting from Africa's subjugation. The attempt on Traore's life is not just about silencing one man. It's a calculated strike against the rising Pan-African movement that threatens the established global order. If Traore is ousted, it will signal that neo-colonial forces are prepared to go to extreme lengths to maintain their grip. But if he endures, it will send an undeniable message across Africa. The fight for true independence is not only possible, but within reach. Despite the mounting dangers, Traore's leadership has become a symbol of more than just Burkina Faso's survival. It represents a broader fight for Africa's destiny. His unwavering commitment to sovereignty, self-reliance and innovation offers hope to many across the continent. As Burkina Faso navigates the perilous waters of foreign interference and internal dissent, Traore's legacy is being shaped by resistance and resilience. His vision is not just bold, it's revolutionary, challenging the very foundations of global economic and political systems. Traore isn't fighting merely to hold on to power, he's battling to carve out a new future for Burkina Faso and Africa at large. Initiatives like the Renaissance City, his rejection of foreign dominance, and his focus on local development all point to a future where Africa stands tall, unshackled from Western dependence. However, the path ahead is perilous. The mounting threats against Traore's life are a stark reminder of the formidable opposition he faces. Yet his resolve remains unbroken. Traore's battle is not just for his survival, it's for Africa's future. Whether he survives this latest assault will shape the destiny of Burkina Faso and the entire continent. So what should Burkina Faso do next? Should they seek revenge if they already know who is behind these attacks? What are your thoughts on how they should navigate this critical juncture?